over the years, I can share with you a few things I've noticed. I've noticed that every idea or every business I ever started always started with a great idea. And so I think every business needs to have a great idea. And you can say that's a clever way of selling something or a unique marketing proposition or whatever it may be. It's got to be a great idea. But ultimately, the business fundamentals need to be in place. How are we selling? How are we marketing? How are we paying our taxes? How are we saving money? All those, quite frankly, things that I'm not great at. I wasn't great at the beginning. And in those first startups, I had to learn how to exercise that muscle, to be better at accounting, bookkeeping, finances. And then I guess another couple of things I've noticed is that over time, at least in my experience, you do always tend to go with the people that are close to you. You know, you it's like, hey, if you want to go somewhere fast, go alone. But if you want to go somewhere far, go together. You have to do that. You have to lean on. The trust is already built into those relationships. And the way that you maintain that trust, if I can kind of give a little bit of advice, is think through all the possibilities. No one likes to think about failure, and we often say failure is not an option. Well, if it's not something you want to do, believe me, it's always an option. But if it's not something you want to do, think through all the negative consequences or scenarios so that you can plan for them. And then whether it's an operating agreement you need to have in place or a way of doing business that you want to follow, make sure you think through those things. And then the last thing I'll share is that, I think they say if you want to get ahead, get started. And that really is business. Everyone up here, I think, understands the sort of just like putting yourself out into the world, and you see it on, I'm 44 years old and I'm on TikTok, and so I see it all the time because there's these amazing creators out there, and I'm just like, damn, they're not really doing much. I mean, they're doing a lot, don't get me wrong, but compared to what I'm doing, I wish I was that brave, quite frankly. Like some of the things they put out there, I'm just like, man, they are putting themselves out there. And I love it. I have such respect for it. So do the work, right? And just part of doing the work is showing up almost every day and being consistent. And that's not to say it's the grind mentality and you have to be there, 80 hours a week. It's more about what you put into the hours, I think, that's important. So yeah, I think for me, it's been about maintaining that trust, trusting people that you work with and trying to find those people. And when you find them, hold on to them. Do whatever you can to hold on to them. And then getting started and iterating and making sure that everything you're doing just speaks to growth and innovation or whatever makes you happy. And oftentimes in business, it's growing that really will make you and the rest of your teammates happy.
Okay. What I want to ask you guys is really, where do you see, you've already actualized your ideas. They are a reality now. What is the next level? Like, what's next? How do you plan on evolving your idea? What is your idea going to look like 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now?
Sure. So for us, we have these two components. We have this fund that we believe is changing the way we look at ownership, and especially for underserved communities. Like I said, our neighborhood is 90%, well, it was 90% Latino, now it's about 75, and it's changed over the years through gentrification, through development. And so how do we hold on to that culture, right? And so for us, the fund is one way of saying, look, if corporations are out there bidding against me for that house I'm trying to buy, then I've got to think differently about what I own in my future and the money that's going to be coming back to me when I invest in things. And so for us, we're trying to do a lot through education. So I think one key component is we have to educate a lot more on what it means to invest, but also we have this huge project. This project, the thing we're investing in, right, is this, what we're calling a food maker campus. It's massive. It's a 1 acre property. It has 3 different buildings, and we have, I think, 10 different major tenants in there. All that equals timelines, construction costs, planning, architecture, a lot of moving parts. And so it goes back to having that team and really making sure we have people that are in place to help with us. But I would say in 5 years, I'm hoping, obviously we've opened up, we've served countless entrepreneurs, food entrepreneurs, and folks coming through our doors, the community, being able to serve them, and maybe we're on to the second fund or the second property, but that's what I hope will happen in the next couple of years, in the next few years. But the next steps for us are really executing on the vision of the concept and actually bringing it to life. We have construction ahead of us for about a year now.
Yeah, so for me, I'm an obsessive creator. Like most of my free time, I'm creating something. So definitely I'm always working on the next. This is volume 1. I want to have as many volumes as I possibly can. There's a music video that I'm currently working on with the animation studio that I collaborate with. There's other poetry collections that I'm working on. But one thing that more recently I've kind of put more focus on in the past 3 or so years is community building and really being active in the community. I'm kind of been rediscovering Houston through the innovation ecosystem. I've had the great opportunity to really be involved, gotten to meet some amazing people, amazing friends, collaborators, colleagues. And so I think, community is incredibly important, no matter what area you're in, and, just showing up, meeting people, supporting people, making those connections is key. So I've been very involved in that. I organize an event here at the Esperson called Intersections, which is about bringing people together across different industries to talk about innovation through the lens of cross-pollination. So, trying to do my part to build community and give back. Because I think, as a byproduct, that also leads then to just continued success in like a symbiosis in the ecosystem. So I've kind of put focus on some of those things, which gives a little bit less time for the creation aspect. Also, because I'm creating so often, I really have to put a little bit more discipline on things that I am less fond of, like just keeping consistent with social media and things like that. So it's a continued effort and ongoing. But that's my goal is to just continue to create this universe of creations, music, and books, and just build that brand, that world that I create.
Yeah, I like what you say, like staying busy, creating a lot, trying different kinds of things. I think that's really important because I started playing rugby back in 2016, and rugby was introduced to the Olympics in 2016. So I always thought it was cool. I was always watching rugby in the Olympics, and then it came back around into the Olympics in 2020. There was a kind of COVID pandemic. Again, it came in the Olympics. I loved it. We were invited to make this film, and I submitted it about a month ago, like end of July. Since then, here came the 2024 Olympics. And for some reason, not the 2016, not the 2020, but the 2024 Olympics, that one went really viral. The USA women won their bronze medal against Australia, and I posted a video about it on TikTok on our page, and it went insanely viral. But up until that point, the last couple years, I was making all kinds of videos trying to go viral, trying to make people care about rugby and see how much I loved it, and hoping that they would also fall in love and care about this sport and the things that these players go through. And no one really cared the first couple years, right? But finally, by the time a wave came and people started watching rugby and it got a chance, it went pretty fast. So I really recommend staying busy, making content, dropping content, because a wave will eventually come. And when that wave comes, it will blow up. And then maybe your past work will get the recognition it deserves. So a lot of patience and a lot of trying a little bit of everything, following your gut, and eventually some wave will give you a chance. Maybe this film festival will give you a chance, because a month ago we agreed, or maybe 2 months ago we agreed to be here, hoping that we can build some networking and some community. But today alone we had a recruiting event, and a lot of girls came out thanks to the Olympics. So you never know where your next chance is gonna be. And now here we are at the film festival, coming back from a very busy wave of recruiting for new girls. And now it's extra exciting. So now I'm really glad I decided to make this film and be a part of this film festival 3 months ago, because now there's a big spotlight on women's rugby. And now I have something awesome that I can pull back and I can post and drop it tonight. And I think will do really good things to the wave. So you don't always know the timing, of when things are gonna happen, and things take years. Things take a long time, so you gotta keep making content, and you gotta wait for that wave. So I'm super grateful that we're in this position, and Hark has also just celebrated 25 years, so it just all eventually will look good. Maybe not when you want it to, but it might eventually just take off if you keep at it, if you follow your gut, and you follow your inspirations at what you like to do, you know? So you never know it's gonna take off, so you might as well make a little bit of everything.
I'm so excited to see how rugby grows in the Houston area. Yeah, that's so cool. Gosh, 5, 10, 15 years from now, I have a recruiting background, so it's interesting to have the question come back to you, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years, right? I think for us, getting a strong, maybe getting some more clarity on what our mission and value is. That's still kind of being workshop, being super transparent about that one. But I think what we're doing right now to build into that is creating that really intentional ecosystem of how can we create partnerships that align with what we currently need and currently want to uplift. And I think when you find people who just have those gifts, we have friends who have nonprofits that are grant writers, and we have other friends who are great at marketing, and they just have such a beautiful gift for it. So how can we kind of come together and create community in that way? And magic just kind of happens whenever you put those kinds of people in a room. There's that flow there. So I think 10 to 15, 20 years from now, I'm gonna manifest that we've got a strong, kick-ass team, and we have really fun events. We've got really fun events that doesn't feel like work for people to come to, and at the same time, we're raising money and awareness for kiddos. I would love to have like $10,000, $20,000 in a scholarship fund. I come from a small little city in Port Arthur, and kind of like the work that you do. If I just had someone to tell me like, oh, you're kind of interested in art, but your parents told you to go to med school, like, here's some options for you, I think that would have really changed the trajectory of my life. So lots of words, a lot of words, but hopefully it was something. Here you go.
So a few years from now, I hope, one, to have been either partnered or collaborated with all of you and some of you, right? Likewise, I try to be a better listener every day than I was yesterday. So by being that listener, as you were saying, that community development, that community building, we are a community. We're a community. So the fact that you chose to even sit here and take some time with us, we're building a new community. And hopefully before we walk out of here, we've gotten each other's information, we've shared, we've talked about our visions of the future. But what do I want to be doing in a couple of years? Heck, like I said, partnering up with you, but also doing some things in the linear or even the comprehensive ways that are already set up. People approached our organization, and my organization kind of nudged me and said, hey, the congressperson passed away. Were you interested? So I jumped in. I threw my hat in the ring, and I just finished running for Congress. But the mayor won. The previous mayor won. But I was one of those 18 people that ran. And that whole experience got exposure for the organization, exposure for myself. Now I know how that process works. So now I know by stepping into the ring, you can cultivate a lot of new ideas, new relationships, but also scale what you're already doing. So a lot of what I know that you're talking about today, I know it's doable because I know there's people out there who are saying they want to help our communities. Everything I've heard each of us say wants to help our community. So I'm going to help you plug in to that. We're going to ride the wave. We're all going to be kick-ass and make this whole city kick-ass. So that's what I'm going to be doing.
Cool. I guess I'll answer my own question as well. So Tosh TV is, right now, it's been very me-centric, and I don't want it to be so me-centric. I think the reason part of what I do is I want to create authentic art, because I feel like I was so, just being on social media and watching the content that people make, I was so discouraged because it looks so cookie cutter and perfect and pretty and aesthetic. And I feel like my films and my work, it's like it's more raw. Like it's like unfiltered, raw. Even I make music. Like I've been making music for the last 6-7 years, and I have never actually mixed and mastered any of my songs. And like I had a friend do it, and I just sounded robotic, and I was like, I don't like that. So I want I'm not saying I don't ever want anything mixed and mastered, but the point that I'm making is I want to collaborate with more artists, creators, writers, actors, actresses, poets. My last film was it was a conversation in poetry. So I actually, only about 3 or 4 poets were in the film, but the hurricane kind of threw a ledge and everything, but I had about 12 poets on board. And I wanted all of the poets to have a platform to share. So I guess, I don't know about 5-10 years from now, hopefully I'm making like major motion pictures, that's the goal. But in the shorter term, I am going to start, so for I Love You But I Don't Care, it was initially just supposed to be a conversation with poetry. We did just do a showcase of the poetry because Kareem said my film couldn't be all that long. He said it has to be under 15 minutes, that's the time I gave him, and each conversation that I did was like 2 hours long. So I have like 4 hours of footage. So I was like, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do like a podcast type situation. So a long time ago, I had started a tea company called Tea with Tashi. And so I have like 100 pounds of herbs sitting in my home that I haven't done shit with. And so, so I just take any excuse I can to make people tea. So when I was doing the conversations, I was like, I'm gonna make a I Love You But I Don't Care blend. So I made a tea blend and I served it to everybody who was part of the conversation. And I was like, you know what, this is kind of like Tea with Tashi, like we're splitting the Tea with Tashi. So you know what, Tea with Tashi is no longer a tea company, it's a podcast called Tea with Tashi.
There it is. Love it. Go ahead.
Right.
Love it.
Right. So I just started my YouTube channel. Literally nothing is on there. It's Tosh TV Productions if you guys want to follow me and go watch. So I'm going to, tomorrow or tonight, I'm going to go and upload the film on it. And then in the next few weeks, I'm going to start uploading the episodes. And it's basically, we're hosting conversations about love and also not caring. But it's just people, I don't have it in me to sit there and be like, oh yeah, like, okay, love is so, no. Let's be fucking for real. Like, tell me how you really feel. Like, let's be raw. I want to see emotion. I want to see authenticity. And that's what I want to continue to create. That's what I see for myself. But anyways, I think we don't have a lot of time left. So we're just going to open the floor for questions. If anybody has questions for anybody up here, please, now is the time to ask them. Tosh TV Productions. No, there's no pic. My graphic designers run late on the logo.
There's other Tosh TVs that's like.
I know it's the green one and it says the T.
Oh yeah, before you have a picture, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question for the gentleman in the plaid shirt.
Oh, my mic.
So you said that you've done entrepreneurship for like the last 20 years. What were like the first couple companies that you started? And like when did you call it quits on it and then moved on to the next one? And how did you
Yeah.
know?
That's a great question. I'll start with the first one because it was right here in downtown. I was a courier. I used to ride a bike and deliver packages for like lawyers in this building. Even we'd come up, and this was in the. I know I sound old, but it was the late '90s, and so there was no cell phones. I mean, there were, but they were like in your car basically. But anyways, we had these cool radios, and so I mean, it was a great job, but. What I didn't have is a way to figure out what was going on for lunch at this restaurant. They had these to-go menus, but they were always at the office. And when we go to the office, we couldn't find the to-go menus, or it would be out of date. And so I was like, it'd be cool if we could see the menu for all the restaurants in downtown. So somebody close to me that I was in school with, I said, hey man, can you? I know you know tech. I wasn't a developer. I'm not a coder. And I was like, can you create a website? And he was like, yeah, I can do that. And I was like, I got this idea. And so he worked with me over the summer. And one summer we created BayouMenus.com. And it was a cool little website. We had like 30 menus on there. And I would go into these restaurants downtown. And sometimes when I was working for the other job, but I would say, hey man, can we put your menu online? They're like, I don't know what you just said, kid. That sounds like highly technical, whatever, sure, whatever. Here's our to-go menu. I'd come back and I'd say, hey, to keep it on our website or change your prices, we're gonna charge you $10 a month, but it's really cool because you can have all your updated prices and we've got your menu on there. And again, these restaurants were kind of like, I don't know what you're talking about. And for me, I ran into so much friction trying to make it a business. I was just like, man, I guess, this is kind of tough. Until one day I walked to a restaurant and the guy was like, oh yeah, you're here last week, right? City Search? And I was like, what the hell is City Search? And so I ran my bike home and I got online. City Search was in 180 cities. It was basically the first digital version of the white pages, basically. And I was like, oh shit, I guess I'm toast. Like for me as a first time entrepreneur, I guess, to answer your question, I guess I was like, I guess that's when I hang it up. Well, I would just getting ready to transfer schools from Texas to North Carolina State. And when I got to North Carolina State, they have Research Triangle Park. Well, they had this website called trianglemenus.com. And I'm like, all right, if these knuckleheads have a website and they're doing something, what am I doing wrong? So I realized they were selling advertising, but it wasn't just any advertising. They were selling the ads for those restaurants. So I should have been walking into these restaurants downtown and going, hey, I know you got a special on Tuesday. Let me advertise the hell out of that on our website. And all they needed to know that we had a website. By the way, we got your menu and your address and your phone number, but your advertising can be on our website, and this is how many eyeballs you're going to get. That's how I should have sold it. If I would have had more time, if I would have been in college, I probably would have iterated. And again, this is before OpenTable, before Yelp. So it would have been great to have been part of that wave. But obviously, you live and you learn. But those were some of the first kind of indications of it was just early mistakes. But I would say that like over time, I've learned, everybody plans for either it's going to be a huge success or it's going to be a total failure. You got to plan for mediocrity. What happens if it's a grind and you're barely making it? You got to figure out a way up, keep growing. So that's my best advice there.
Any other questions? No? Okay.
Can everybody give a little plug?
A plug?
Where can we
Yeah.
find everybody?
Yeah.
You can find me, for now, just follow me on Instagram, tosh.inc, Tosh Incorporated.
Hey, that's a good one. So we're at magnolia.fund, so instead of .com, .fund. And I mentioned we're trying to make it so that our property is owned by locals. Well, in about 2 months, we're going to open it up to everybody because we'll be part of a crowdfunding campaign for equity, which means anybody, but we're hoping a lot of local people too will invest in the building, and people will be able to invest for as little as $100. So it's really cool.
Quick plug, I've worked in securities law, and I can possibly help you with the investment project. Yeah.
Cool. Keep your Instagrams open. I have mine actually. Well, this is a newer page, but it's Mr. Pendulum, MrPendlum. It's a newer page that I'm activating. So yeah, I'm pretty active there. Feel free to say hi, send a message. Yeah.
Yay. And we are Houston Rugby, just one word. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. No YouTube. Stay tuned for YouTube. And HoustonRugby.org if you want to learn more.
We don't have an official page, but we've had a lot of feedback saying that we need to make one. We're on Instagram. I market all of our material. You can find me at Mimi, MIMI_Tran on Instagram. If you follow me, I will post relentlessly. You can mute me, that's okay. But yeah, Instagram soon to come.
You can hit me up, Google me, easy name to remember, Timothy Butts. But our organization, inroads.org, it's an org out there. And then another sub-company is tebtech.biz. So a number of entities. But I would say, if you all allow me to say it, opportunity and preparation, when it meets that intersection, equals success, right? And it's through that us telling you our brands and sharing everything is really going to happen, because you guys being hungry and wanting to try something new, having ideas, tossing it around, that's how the next level is going to come. That's how we're all going to cultivate these ideas that are great. But what's the purpose of this panel? Vision, turning it into reality. That's right.
Ideas to reality.
Ideas to reality. So let's keep on popping with new ideas. Let's keep on wanting that reality, but let's create the reality we all can be. I'm all about that.
Okay. Well, everybody, thank you for being here with us, and that concludes the webinar.